Welcome to ScaleUp Radio Shorts, brought to you by Smart 90, the proven 90-day execution system for scaling businesses. I'm Kevin Brent, co-founder of Smart 90.
And I'm Granger Forson, also a co-founder. We're really excited to bring you another insightful episode today. We're going to dive into a comparative discussion of two recent interviews we had on the main ScaleUp Radio podcast.
That's right, Granger. We'll be looking back at our conversations with Chris Carter from EventWise and Claire Loftus from Evolve. Both are incredible entrepreneurs, and by comparing their journeys, we aim to extract even more valuable insights for you, our listeners.
Our goal is to highlight the key lessons learned from their experiences, contrasting their approaches and challenges, and of course, to pique your interest enough that you'll want to go and listen to their full, in-depth interviews on ScaleUp Radio. Let's get started.
So, let's kick things off with Chris Carter from EventWise. Chris comes from a strong finance background, and interestingly, he describes his own approach to business as someone who likes to jump in at the deep end and just do it all without really thinking about it, always believing it will work out.
That really sums him up. His journey into EventWise was quite unique too, born directly out of the COVID-19 pandemic. When his touring artist clients couldn't tour, Chris used his finance skills to create a solution aimed at improving the events industry as a whole. It highlights his proactive and problem-solving nature right from the start.
And then we have Claire Loftus from Evolve, who has quite a different origin story. Claire actually comes from a long line of entrepreneurs. Her grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles all ran their own businesses, which really set the stage for her.
Absolutely. Claire's path to launching Evolve was deeply personal. After experiencing significant health issues and postnatal depression in 2015-2016, she reassessed what she wanted from life. This really shaped her resilient and determined personality, leading her to build Evolve as a pragmatic, friendly, and notably human-centric HR consultancy focused on helping businesses and their people thrive. A clear contrast in their initial motivations and styles.
It's fascinating how different their initial approaches to building their businesses were, especially when you look at how they tackled product or service development. Chris, for instance, really leaned into what he calls his hell for leather approach for EventWise.
He certainly did. Chris admitted he kind of did the opposite to what I was told and ignored what every single book says about building software. Instead of starting small or prototyping, he went straight for a full-fledged minimum viable product, or MVP, right out of the gate.
Yes, he built it with 5 core functionalities from scratch: budgeting, sales, scenario planning, purchase orders, reporting, approvals, believing it needed the whole shebang to truly pull people away from spreadsheets. He felt it needed to be comprehensive from day one.
And that came with a significant cost. He mentioned it cost a huge amount of money and took him 3 to 3.5 years just to reach that MVP stage. In hindsight, he even acknowledged that he probably should have gone the no-code route initially, or focused on just 1 or 2 core functionalities to prove the concept more readily. It really highlights his jump-in-at-the-deep-end personality.
On the flip side, Claire's approach with Evolve was much more iterative and, as the document states, relational. She didn't launch with a fully fleshed-out product or service in the same way.
Exactly. Claire started small with her website development, for instance. She described starting with just a landing page, then moving to something slightly better that she could afford, and eventually building a really good website that is really delivering. This staged approach allowed her to adapt and learn as both her resources and knowledge grew.
It speaks to her pragmatic nature, and it's a clear contrast to Chris's big upfront investment. Claire's focus was also very much on building relationships, not just with clients, but within the HR professional community, viewing them as opportunities to collaborate rather than competitors. It's a very organic, relationship-driven growth model. Moving from their foundational approaches, let's look at the significant hurdles they each faced. Chris, despite his proactive nature, encountered a fundamental challenge with EventWise, educating the events industry.
That's right. He highlighted that his biggest challenge remains the education of moving away from a spreadsheet in the events industry. People are so used to it, and getting them to see the value in new software, even EventWise, can take months of full onboarding and regular use. It's a huge shift in ingrained habits.
And beyond that industry resistance, Chris also had to contend with the complexities of building a tech company, specifically recruitment for his tech team, deciding between outsourced or internal staff, and then, as he scaled, managing the expectations of VC funds and shareholders. It sounds like a lot to juggle, especially when self-funding.
Absolutely. He even mentioned being very close to burnout a couple of times from managing multiple major life events while self-funding. That's a testament to the personal strain involved in his hell for leather approach.
In stark contrast, Claire's challenges, while equally significant, were very different. Her hurdles were much more people-centric and regulatory.
Precisely. Claire found hiring her first employee a huge decision, realizing it's completely different advising clients versus managing your own team. Then, the pandemic hit, and she described firefighting government guidance during COVID-19 while simultaneously managing her family life at home.
And her personal journey brought another unique challenge, her ADHD diagnosis at age 41. This gave her greater self-awareness, particularly highlighting the challenge of delegation, which is crucial for any business owner looking to scale.
She also faces the ongoing challenge of constantly monitoring employment law reform across 3 jurisdictions and anticipating economic shifts like recessions and national insurance increases. It really underscores the distinct regulatory and people management complexities inherent in an HR consultancy compared to a software development company.
It's fascinating how their challenges differed. Now, let's pivot to how they both approach marketing and client acquisition. Chris, coming from an accounting practice that grew purely through word of mouth, seems to be adapting his marketing strategy for EventWise.
That's right. He's openly admitted he's learning on the job when it comes to marketing for EventWise. His main focus is on direct engagement, particularly by building a thought leader presence on LinkedIn, sharing his personal experiences rather than just directly promoting the software.
And his most successful tactic for EventWise really highlights his perseverance. He found that face-to-face interaction at conferences was key to educating people about moving away from spreadsheets. He even noted that after 4 conferences with little return, a 5th one yielded a significant client worth $50,000 per year. That's a powerful testament to persistence over immediate results.
Absolutely. It underscores his belief that you just jump in and do it, and it will work out. He also found, interestingly, that paid media was super expensive and not quite effective without a big budget.
Now, comparing that to Claire's approach, it's almost a philosophical difference. Her marketing and client acquisition are deeply rooted in her giver's gain philosophy.
Exactly. Claire is all about giving value first. She offers initial free consultations and even provided extensive pro bono work during COVID-19, believing that if you put it out there, it'll come back. This is such a clear example of her people-centric approach extending to her business development.
And her networking is extensive, even personal, with her bringing her baby along to events. Being a member of BNI, Business Network International, has also been a really good way of building a network and connections and relationships for her.
She really prioritizes collaboration over competition. Claire often refers clients to or accepts work from other HR consultants. It's a stark contrast to a more traditional competitive marketing stance, showing how her empathetic nature directly influences her business strategy.
It's really interesting to see how their marketing strategies flow from their core philosophies. Let's move on to how they approach team and culture within their respective businesses. Starting with Chris, his aim for EventWise sounds very focused on internal processes and efficiency.
Yes, it does. Chris really wants EventWise to be a platform that brings all of the processes into one platform to foster collaboration and drive huge efficiencies. He clearly values his team, stating he's very thankful that they've chosen to stick with me for the last couple of years. It sounds like he prioritizes a streamlined and cohesive working environment.
That makes sense, especially for a software company where integration and efficiency are key. Now, contrasting that with Claire's approach at Evolve, it's quite different. Her emphasis seems to be much more on flexibility, autonomy, and the overall well-being of her team.
Absolutely. Claire's Evolve team is fully remote, and she really leans into offering significant autonomy and flexibility. She's keen on accommodating personal lives, like attending sports days, which truly speaks to her human-centric approach. She aims to create a supportive environment, with a variety of work to keep things engaging.
And it goes beyond just flexibility. She practices authentic leadership, openly discussing her struggles and mistakes with her team. Plus, Evolve is a real living wage employer and provides more than statutory annual leave, even offering small gestures like corporate taxi use when employees get stuck.
It's clear she believes in creating an environment where people will be productive and they'll thrive and don't feel miserable. She even emphasizes the importance of ending relationships well, both with employees and clients, because, as she puts it, you never know when circumstances will change. It's a holistic, empathetic approach to team dynamics.
It's fascinating how their individual approaches to team and culture reflect their broader business philosophies. Moving on to financials, how do their pathways to funding and investment compare? Let's start with Chris's journey for EventWise.
Chris's financial journey for EventWise was, by his own admission, really difficult. He self-funded the entire venture through the profits from his accounting practice, In the Loop. That takes a huge amount of personal dedication and risk.
And it wasn't just bootstrapping. He recently started bringing in external investment, securing funds from We Group and Fuel Ventures, and he's still actively raising more. It seems like his current financial focus is very much on scaling for validation.
Exactly. His immediate goal is to reach 1.2 million in annual recurring revenues, currently at 550k, to truly validate the company and attract even larger investments for expansion. It's a very data-driven, growth-focused financial strategy.
Now, turning to Claire, her financial approach at Evolve seems to be on the opposite end of the spectrum, much more pragmatic and values-driven rather than investment-centric.
She admits she's not a numbers person and relies on her husband for some financial guidance. Her focus is squarely on key operational metrics like turnover, cash flow, and managing outstanding money. Her turnover actually increased by about 20% in the last financial year, which is impressive without significant external investment.
And she's very flexible with her payment models, offering retainers and pay-as-you-go options. She specifically avoids those long multi-year contracts, seeing them as unfair for smaller employers.
Yes, and this really highlights her values. During COVID-19, she even stopped direct debits for struggling hospitality and retail clients, which shows a powerful commitment to her giver's gain philosophy over immediate profit. It's a clear contrast to Chris's growth-driven investment strategy.
That's a really sharp contrast, Granger, between the investment-driven scaling and the values-led organic growth. This leads us nicely into how they approach risk management and decision-making. Chris, on one hand, talks about this jump in at the deep end mentality.
He does, doesn't he? He admits to kind of doing the opposite to what I was told and just going for it, especially with EventWise's development. He's described himself as someone who tends to jump in at the deep end and just do it all without really thinking about it, always believing it will work out.
But he also mentioned a balance, didn't he? His first mentor really instilled in him the importance of due diligence, doing things the right way, compliance and risk. So while he might jump in, there's also an underlying awareness of risk management, even if he sometimes chooses to override it for what he believes will work.
Absolutely. It's a calculated risk-taking, even if it appears impulsive. Now, Claire's approach to risk and decision-making is quite different, deeply rooted in her expertise in HR. She strongly advocates for seeking professional input early on for HR matters.
Yes, and that's to avoid costly tribunal cases down the line, ensuring all processes are followed correctly. It's a very proactive, preventative approach to mitigating risk.
And she even advises clients to consider commercial settlements in tribunal cases, even if they feel wronged. Her reasoning is pragmatic, to save months of angst and headspace and allow them to refocus on their core business. That's a very clear, pragmatic decision-making framework.
It really highlights her focus on long-term well-being over short-term battles. And interestingly, she also admits to instances where she hasn't trusted my gut and listened to others, which hasn't delivered, showing that she learns from her own decision-making processes. So, looking back at both Chris and Claire's journeys, what really stands out is this shared thread of perseverance and adaptability despite their very different approaches.
Absolutely. Chris, with his jump-in-at-the-deep-end mentality, really embodies a bold, self-funded and data-driven approach with EventWise. He built this extensive MVP, self-funded it, and is now relentlessly focused on market validation through annual recurring revenue. It's a very direct, almost singular focus on the product and its market fit.
And then you have Claire, whose path with Evolve is equally compelling, but through a very different lens. Her journey showcases an incredibly empathetic, values-driven, and iterative growth model. She's built a business based on human connection, flexibility, and a genuine desire to help people thrive, allowing her business to evolve organically as she learned and as resources became available.
It's fascinating because both are scaling, but in such distinct ways. Chris's dedication to educating an industry and proving the value of his software, even when it means battling ingrained habits like spreadsheets, shows incredible resilience.
And Claire's ability to navigate personal health challenges, a global pandemic, and the complexities of HR law, all while building a people-centric culture both internally and externally, speaks volumes about her determination and adaptability. She's constantly learning, whether it's about delegation post-ADHD diagnosis or adapting payment models for clients.
Exactly. What ties them together is that immense personal dedication. They are deeply invested in their businesses, not just as ventures, but as extensions of their personalities and values. And this continuous learning, adjusting to challenges, and refining their approach, that's the true hallmark of the entrepreneurial spirit they both share.
It's been an incredibly insightful discussion today, Granger, comparing and contrasting these two inspiring entrepreneurial journeys. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Kevin. It's always a privilege to dive into the lessons learned from such dedicated business owners.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to ScaleUp Radio Shorts, brought to you by Smart 90. We hope this comparison of Chris Carter's and Claire Loftus's experiences has provided you with valuable insights for your own scaling journey.
If you're eager to hear more from Chris and Claire directly, you can find their full, insightful interviews by searching for ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts.
And to learn more about Smart 90, the proven 90-day execution system for scaling businesses, simply visit smart90.co.uk. We're here to help you turn your vision into tangible results. Thanks for listening.